Hi, my name is Adam Whitmer and I'm your host here at ComplianceCohort.com. This compliance clip is going to discuss CTRs for sole proprietorships, so this is a BSA topic. Now the question at hand is, how should a CTR be completed for a sole proprietorship? So what a sole proprietorship, of course, is when you have an individual who owns a business, but they're operating essentially as themselves. There's no liability shelter for them, such as an LLC or something like that, but they're operating the business one and the same. And it comes back to tax reporting and business entity registration. But the idea is if you have a photographer, they are probably going to operate as a sole proprietor. So that's what we're talking about, is a sole proprietor. And specifically, we're talking about sole proprietors that are operating under a different name, which is a DBA, or doing business as. So for example, Adam Whitmer doing business as, let's say, AW Photography. So AW Photography is not my legal name, and in the state of Indiana where I live, I have to file an assumed name certificate to do business as something different than my legal name. So that's what we're talking about here, is how do we complete a CTR when you have a sole proprietorship doing business as a different legal name? So that's our question. Now the answer, which we're getting to this is found in frequently asked question number 26. So FinCEN, or the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, has released a number of frequently asked questions on how to complete CTRs. And question number 26 answers our question. So that's what we are going to. So the question 26 states, what is the proper way to complete the FinCEN CTR for sole proprietorships and legal entities operating under multiple DBAs? So what we're worried about is the first part of that question, sole proprietorships. The second part is legal entities operating under multiple DBAs. That's a question for another day. So our question relates to sole proprietorships. So the answer to this, under frequently asked question number 26 from FinCEN, is that FinCEN does not require a covered institution to complete two Part 1s when completing the FinCEN CTR for a sole proprietorship. So some people have thought, do we complete two Part 1s, one for the sole proprietorship and one for the individual? The answer is no, you'll just complete one. And in fact, frequently asked question number 26 gives a couple of examples on how to complete CTRs for sole proprietors. So let's take a look at those. Example number 1 talks about Jane Smith. I always wonder why they use Jane for the female version of John. Why don't they use Dolly or Samantha, something like that? But they use Jane Smith. And their example is Jane Smith operates, I don't know why I got off on that tangent. Excuse me. Jane Smith operates a sole proprietorship under the DBA name ABC Express. So her business is, she operates carrier pigeons, right? ABC Express. Now, there are no employees, and the sole proprietorship uses the same tax ID number as Jane. So that is something that can be done, is the sole proprietorship, ABC Express, can actually use the same tax ID number as Jane, because legally, Jane and ABC Express are one and the same. They're the exact same entity. So they can use the same tax ID number. So how do you complete a CTR when this is the case? Well, in this case, the CTR is going to be completed by checking box 2A that Jane conducted the transaction on her own behalf. And then what you do is list Jane's name and her personal information in Part 1, but then in Item 8 of Part 1, under, I believe it's aliases, and we'll take a look at this, or alternate names, we'll take a look at this in just a minute, you list the DBA name of ABC Express. So ABC Express goes in Item 8, and all of Jane's information goes in items, 4 through 7. So those are the items it goes into, and we'll look at this in just a minute. Now, the second example is very similar. It's Jane Smith is operating her sole proprietorship under the same name, ABC Express, but there are several employees, so the sole proprietorship uses a different tax ID number than Jane. So what do we list? right? When there's a different tax ID number, how do we complete this? Well, basically, what it comes down to is the CTR is completed the same way. You list Jane's information and Jane's social security number. You don't worry about the tax ID number of the sole prop, but you list it as Jane conducted it on her own behalf, list the information of Jane, and then under item 8, you list the name of the DBA, which in this case, of course, is ABC Express. So let's take a quick look at what this looks like, because FinCit has given us an example here. And specifically, you can see in part 1 on how they want us to complete this is under item 2A, here at the top left, you are going to check the person conducting the transaction on their own behalf. Then we go down and you see Jane Smith's name and information is here. I might be in the way a little bit. But then you see, you go down to item 8. Let me get out of the way. Over here, you've got right, I can move myself at post-editing, but that's no fun, right? So you see the alternative name is listed item 8. You put ABC Express there. Of course, you list Jane's personal information, her tax ID number here, and everything else. And then the CTR is basically just like you normally complete it. The information in part 2 is very straightforward. So that is how you complete a CTR for a sole proprietorship. So that's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this topic of me ducking around and making terrible jokes. But again, my name is Adam Whitmer, and this was our compliance clip for today. We have a lot of other compliance clips on our website. If you're a member, you know this. You have access to all of our compliance clips. So I hope to see you there. I hope you enjoyed this and have a great day. Thanks for watching.